Good morning and welcome to today's session of Coffee Conversation. We're so glad to have you back with us so we can have another good topic about what's going on in Cumberland County Schools. Today, of course, we have with us, as always, our co-hosts, Jonathan and Renata. Jonathan and Renata, can you introduce yourselves?
Certainly. My name is Jonathan Franz. I am the Curriculum Specialist for Social Studies for Cumberland County Schools.
And I'm Renata Moy, Chief Communications Officer for the Cumberland County Schools.
And I'm Joaquina George, the Family Engagement Specialist for Cumberland County Schools. And our very special guest and expert with us today is Dr. Natasha Scott. Dr. Natasha Scott is our Executive Director of Student Services for Cumberland County Schools. Dr. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Although I'm feeling a little pressure now since you said expert. You know, I'm just a little country girl, trying to come in here and help do my part for the children.
But you're still our local expert. So we know that you know a lot more about the student services side than we know. So we're leaving you to give us all the valuable information. We're pulling from you today, Dr. Scott. No
okay, well, I got the tea. I got the tea. Come on.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and get started. Dr. Scott, we know that there's a lot of things that fall up under student services. Can you fill us in a little bit about some of the services that are offered that fall up under the umbrella?
Yes. Student services consist of school counselors, school social work, school psychology, health services, the military liaison. And we also have another program called the School-Based Care Review Program, which those staff essentially are school counselors and school social workers. That's more of our school mental health, school behavioral health type program. So if you think about health and human services, all of those things kind of fit under student services. We also have the district Section 504 coordinator, who also happens to be the dropout prevention specialist. So, if you're hungry, poor, crying, sad, just need a hug, stop by student services, and we are the folks to help you out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's a lot, but it's all much needed.
Oh, yeah.
Much needed.
It is indeed much needed, and sort of never more so than during this pandemic. So with all the things that have impacted our students and our families, what, from the point of view of your department, what have been some of the major concerns?
Some of our major concerns have been, for one, not being able to see children on a daily basis. Mm. So there is a lot of benefit that comes from students being in that building from 7, 8 o'clock in the morning till 2:30, 3 o'clock, and being in the presence of a caring adult, someone who is keeping an eye on that student. A school year is 180 days. That is a lot of time to really get to know a student and, to kind of know their nuances, when they're happy, when they're sad, when something is not quite right. Students have a lot of things that go on at home and in the community. They have lots of things that go on in the school building with their peers, or perhaps with the teacher. And so from the student services perspective, a school counselor, school social worker, school psychologist, a nurse even, we spend a lot of time talking to students and observing students. It's a place where children can come and speak confidentially. Typically, when they speak with us, we do not dole out discipline, so they don't have to worry about getting in trouble when they're talking to us. And so our number one concern really has been not being able to see the students and make sure that they're really safe and okay, that kids are eating and getting their meals. We spend a lot of time linking children as well as their families to community resources. So that has been a major concern. In addition to that, the other concern I would say would be those students that when school closed in March and we went home, there are some students that we have not seen them, we have not spoken to them this entire time. And so not knowing what's happening with those students, that is a major concern. So fast forward to today, as we are opening the 2020-2021 school year, I think something that is on everybody's mind, regardless of what department you're in, is wanting to really reach out and make sure that all of the students come back, figuring out where kids are, making sure that they have all of the stuff that they need to have a successful school year, and then giving them the support that they need. Last year was so unexpected, but now we've got a little bit of idea about how things could go, and so we want to find all the babies, and touch bases with them and their families, and get them all set up for a great school year.
Now, you know what, Dr. Scott, in going back to what you mentioned about the emergency school closure, you all were very instrumental in doing some things there. So what are some services that Student Services provided our young people during that emergency school closure?
The first thing that we did was we put in place the Student Services Hotline. As I mentioned before, students are accustomed to having access to a counselor, social worker, psychologist, being able to go down to the front office and speak with a med clerk or a nurse if they're not feeling well. And so we wanted students to still have that option to be able to reach out and connect, again, with a caring adult, one that you don't have to be concerned about getting in trouble, or that there's going to be some type of disciplinary action associated with speaking to us. So, although we didn't really know what to expect, when we had the opportunity to put that hotline in place, we just felt like that was the right thing to do. And so we staffed it with our counselors, social workers, and psychologists. Initially, the line was available 24/7, and you would get a live person. And then we just watched the data. We looked at how often students were actually calling. We looked at what types of phone calls we were actually receiving, and then we adjusted the hours accordingly. So we had the hotline in place. We had staff that were volunteering at the meal sites. We had social workers who were still picking up Backpack Buddies. Backpack Buddies is like it's a weekend program that provides meals to students to make sure that they have meals on the weekend. So you had staff that were making home visits and making sure that those Backpack Buddies were being dropped off to students. They were contacting students, those students who are frequently in the Student Services office, that they may have already had knowledge that these students maybe had some issues that we were working through before the emergency school closure, or they just typically stopped by. They were reaching out to those students individually. Some counselors and social workers were in the middle of implementing small groups, and they continued their small groups, but did it virtually. So we tried to, as much as possible, provide the services that we had been providing when we were in the brick and mortar building.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a little bit of what you all were doing over there, and some really great stuff. But of course now, and you alluded to this already, this year we know we're going in full remote. We don't really know, what happens next. So what is your department doing to extend services now that we kind of can plan, like how is that going to look?
Okay, so we are going to bring the Student Services Hotline back. We've made a decision that If we are in Plan B or C, in other words, if there's any part of the school year where students are at home and doing remote learning, that we think that we should just keep, that it would be prudent to just keep the hotline in place. So that is coming back. But then during that emergency closure, like everyone else, we sat through a lot of PD webinars and um, virtual conferences with a lot of focus on the SEL needs. So we've been learning about telehealth and telecounseling, how to do that, how to provide that individual counseling and small group counseling. So for example, one of the small groups that we were in the midst of doing is called Sparks, which is structured psychotherapy for adolescents who are experiencing chronic stress or trauma. And we're going to resume those groups. Yes, and so part of what we're planning for, we're working with the Center for Child and Family Health to implement that program. Last year was our first year, and we completed the first round of groups, and we were working on the second round of groups, and those groups got cut short. So we're starting back up this year with telehealth in mind to begin with, so that we don't want to stop. It's too important not to have those conversations. Another thing we put in place is we created what we call virtual calm rooms. We have one for the elementary students and we have one for secondary students. Oh, Renata, you should see how you're like all leaning into the camera. Like,
yeah, I'm like trying to like,
tell me about the virtual calm room. It's for the kids. It's not for you.
Okay. Pooh.
But a virtual calm room is like a space. It's a space that's dedicated to like mindfulness, a place for students to work on managing their emotions and feelings. And actually, Renata, you probably would really like the room. Anyone would like going in there. So it's actually a Google site. But when you go on the elementary site, for example, there are spaces where you can click on calming music. There are calming music, maybe pictures of animals. There's links to apps with breathing and mindfulness activities.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it is a place where a student can go, like if you need a timeout, you can virtually go into the elementary virtual calm room and find the coping strategy there that works best for you in terms of that self-regulation. It also has parent resources, and it also has resources for staff. So that's the elementary room. The secondary room is very similar. It also has like a lot of calming pictures and relaxing music, but then it also has information, for example, on how to create your own self-care plan, if you're managing grief issues, career and college information, but it also has resources for parents as well as resources for educators. So we're really excited about that. In addition to that, we're asking the staff to create virtual offices. So, yeah, a virtual office. And the virtual comm room, for example, is one of the things that if a student goes to the virtual student services office, that you could connect with a school counselor or social worker, or you could, visit the virtual comm room. There'll be information in there about community resources. So from help with food to mental health providers, all of that information is in the virtual office. So we are taking the big leap into technology and just trying to create some virtual mechanisms that would allow us to connect with students and parents and for them to connect with us.
Yeah, it really, I'm sorry. Yeah, it sounds to me like your department really spent the summer really digging in to find ways, they talk about making lemonade out of lemons. Like, okay, if this is the reality, how can we make the best of it? And I'm impressed.
I'm really
you.
digging that calm room. I'm really,
Right?
you know what? I think I have an app, like a calm app. I can't find it. And my
She's getting
doctor
really anxious
actually
about
said, she said, you might need to get this on your phone, that and Headspace, to kind of, it helps you with rest, you're sleeping. It helps you also when you're all keyed up to kind of calm it down. And like you said, the breathing exercises and, and I've tried it a couple of times. I probably need to use it more often, but yeah, that's good. Okay.
we're very excited about that. The two calm rooms, they were actually created by Ms. Sharika King, who is our lead care review consultant, and a team of school psychologists. So there were four of them, and they really had a great time just going online and really researching the internet to find appropriate materials for your elementary students, but then also things for your secondary students. So when a student goes into the virtual comm room, they'll have their choice of selecting something that works best for them. You know, you can put if you're at home, you know, you can just go to it. So, you know, you can just go in the virtual comm room. You can go as many times as you want, stay as long as you want. So we're excited about implementing those kinds of tools that teachers even can incorporate into their classroom. They can, you know, add a link to their Canvas courses. They can link right to the virtual comm room so that, you know, kids can just kind of take a moment and refuel, if you will, or reset.
Now, you know what, let me ask you this, with that in mind, are there any tips that you may be able to offer parents to help their children find their way through this new normal? Because I see my kids, some days we're good, some days we're, oh, I miss my friends, and it's some many days that are in between. But are there some tips that you could offer parents?
Yes. Our students are little people.
Yes.
So the pandemic, it's not just an extended summer break. They appreciate structure and a daily routine just as much as we do as adults.
Right.
So some things that parents can do is monitor screen time. What's coming through on the television as well as on the internet. Children sometimes don't have the experience and the skills to know what is just the internet and what is the truth and how to filter all of those things out. So just, you know, monitor the TV time. And also, as the kids will say, keep it real with your children. Take time to talk to them and explain to them what is actually happening and ask them how they're feeling. And if they're talking about missing their friends or that they're not going to, you know, be able to play sports, we do want them to be grateful for life and breath and that they have a roof over their head. But we also want to be real about that they do experience stress and they do have worry and angst and anxiety that is absolutely real to them. And we do need to talk with our children about that. You know, you just want to keep it on an age appropriate level, but check in with your children from time to time. I would also be honest with them. Be honest and spend time talking with them about hygiene habits. We've been talking about the 3 W's. Make sure your children know the 3 W's: to wear a mask, to maintain the social distance, you know, to maintain the social distancing guidelines, and to wash your hands frequently. When you wash your hands, you know, sing the birthday song twice or literally count to 20 seconds. You know, teach them how to turn on the faucet in a way so that they use their napkin and they don't have to touch it. Teach them all those good skills that you know as an adult that they may not just naturally think of those things. So lots of teaching opportunities there. If your children don't have a daily routine, help them to set one and create one, because that normalcy in and of itself can be therapeutic.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic. It just makes us all, that's part of what's driving us crazy as adults, right?
Yeah.
We don't have
Because we're operating in chaos, right? You know, it's just chaos. You know, so yeah, when you have that normalcy, it helps you, you know, and know what to expect to some degree.
And children depend on us to create that normalcy. So if you're feeling stressed out, your children pick up on that too.
Yeah.
They pick up
You're
on
right.
it. They pick up on it. They're little people, but they get it. They get it. They understand a lot more than we realize we do. But just being honest, talking to them, monitoring what's coming in and going out of the house, even teaching them some self-regulation skills like, you know, deep breathing and mindfulness kinds of things, you know, to use things like a calm room, or just pick up the phone and call a family member or a trusted adult when they're feeling anxious about something. But, you know, helping to reinforce those kind of those kind of skills in your children as well, so that they're self-aware.
Good tips, really great tips. Look, I've been writing them down.
I'm going to send you guys the links to the calm room. I do think you'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
Please share that link with us. I'm thinking, note to self, after the day is over, I need to create my virtual calm room for me.
Yes,
So,
yes,
thank you, Dr. Scott, so much for this information.
Yes.
It is valuable, and as we work our way through this pandemic and our new normal, our families are really looking for information like this to help them to navigate this virtual learning and how to provide the students with the support that they need to get through this, because we're going to all get through this together one way or another. So thank you, Dr. Scott, for that information. We really appreciate it. This was another session of our Coffee Conversations. Coffee Conversations is a part of our Cumberland Family Academy initiative, which we have put together in order to support our parents, not just during this pandemic, but when we get to our new normal. We will continue to provide much needed information and resources to our families to make sure you're aware. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Coffee Conversations. Dr. Scott, thank you for joining us, and we hope to have you with us again. Jonathan, Renata, thank you for always being great co-hosts. And family, thank you for joining us for this conversation. Next time, you bring your coffee and we'll bring the conversation. Have a good day.
Bye.
bye.